Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I am Maria, and I'm excited to have you here with me and Cody today as we talk about lead magnets. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but in general, it's just a really great way to try to build your list, if you will. A lot of times we start with the people that we know and we ask for referrals, but eventually we run out of those people and our circle has only gotten so big. And so we're trying to find ways to bring new people into our world so that we can help see if we can serve them as well. And what a lead magnet is just some sort of product or service, whether it's a consultation or something. I think it's more along the lines of an ebook or something that's tangible for them to hang on to that you exchange for their email address. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk to Cody about this. I've been watching what he's been doing. It's been fantastic to watch him go from what he was doing before, which I think you said, right, Cody, that it wasn't you weren't confident with it in the beginning. And now you're just killing it with these lead magnets. So I'm really excited to have you here talking to us about this, Cody. I'm going to turn it over to you and we're going to see what you got for us today.
Yeah, so to follow up on what you had said with what a lead magnet is, obviously you're trying to get that email. That's the obvious thing, but basically it's a value exchange, right?
Yes.
You're providing value for people, usually for free. That really the only thing that you're asking for is just a name and email, and that's it. And the purpose of that is for you to get them into your email list to where you can then do drip campaigns, or you can do a special offer or something like that, to where they're kind of in your circle. However, there's also ways to take it a step further and not only just get that name and email, but also kind of push them to set up a call with you, and there's ways to do that with structuring up your lead magnets that isn't pushy, and it's just a part of it. And I'm going to kind of explain that today as well.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're going to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. For sure. So in my opinion, before we even talk about, unpacking the nitty-gritty stuff of the lead magnet, the most important thing that you can do for creating your lead magnet is putting intentional time and effort into crafting an attractive name for it. Okay? So not something that you're just oh, I'm a coach and this sounds good to me. The coach's mind doesn't matter.
Amen.
Okay? It's all about the audience of who you're trying to get, and you need to really tap into their psyche and figure out what do they want? What do they not even really what they need, because that's what we as coaches do.
Right.
We're hey, they need this. They don't care about what they need. They care about what they want.
Yep.
Right? So putting the time, and what I mean by time is the name could honestly be the thing that you spend the most time on. Be really, really intentional with that. And I'll even give a personal example with that. So I recently put out a lead magnet that totally crushed all of my previous lead magnets as in comparison. I think it performed 3 or 4 times better than all of the rest of them.
Nice.
And the reason that it did was because of the name. And initially I had the name of a 3-step, or it was the 3-step budgeting game plan. That was the initial name.
Boring.
And yeah, me, as a coach, I was this sounds sweet. This is what people need. I was really jazzed up about it. But I took it to some of my business colleagues that I kind of work with, and I was hey, what do you guys think about this? And it was a group of, I don't know, 10 or 12 people, and all of them, every single one of them said, I hate it. And I was okay, cool. Yeah, seriously. And I was why? And they're dude, the word budgeting just makes me want to run.
Yeah.
It makes me want to run. It makes me want to do I don't want to have anything to do with this. That needs to change. And
I feel like we touched on this in last week's episode, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did. And this was something I just recently learned too. So I had a hard time figuring out a new name for that because I don't know. I don't think there's a sexy word for budget. But I was able to come up with the name Money Map, right? So it's like a map for your money. And you can come up with your own name, whatever. You can use that. Who cares? But that's something that I came up with, and I came back to the group that initially told me no, and I was like, okay, well, how about the 3-step money map? And they're all like, yes, that sounds way more inviting.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, cool. So the name is very, very important, and I also think that having a highlight is also important. And basically the highlights would be almost like a subheader or a little tagline. So with that, you don't want to focus on the things that are negative. So I think that oftentimes, especially with me in my previous lead magnets that didn't really work very well, I always focused on things like, let me see here, relieve your anxiety and stress of money or something like that, right? But even though you're saying you're going to relieve that, you're still talking about the anxiety and stress. And just seeing those words and hearing those words makes people have anxiety and stress, right? So that was something I learned. And instead of doing something like that, you should use words that are more empowering and give people, again, what they want. So what do people want? Well, people want to save more money. People want to rapidly eliminate their debt. People want confidence. They want clarity. All of those things. Instead of talking about getting rid of the negative, don't even talk about the negative. Just build up the positive things that are going to happen for them, right?
Yeah, I like to talk about it as terms of, instead of talking about what you're running away from, talk about what you're running towards.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I'm going to pull up my my lead magnet here, and I'll actually read it to you as to what the tagline was. Here it is right here. So it's the 3-step money map, a stress-free pathway to save money faster and eliminate debt with ease. And then another tagline that says, give yourself a raise in 3 easy steps. So all of those things are what people want. They want stress-free pathway. They want save money faster. They want eliminate debt with ease. They want to give themselves a raise. All of those things are what people want, right? So really putting time into the language that is on the front page of your lead magnet, or the marketing of your lead magnet, is 100% the thing that will either make your lead magnet amazing or flop.
Yeah,
100%.
Great advice.
So there's a ton of different types of lead magnets. Some are very simple. Some could be just a one sheet. Some could be even a tool. It could be a calculator. It could be literally anything. But for the sake of an example, I'm going to go ahead and just use my Money Map lead magnet and kind of unpack that because it worked really well. And I think that if you were to take this formula or this template and do something of your own, that you might see some success with it. So basically, what my Money Map thing is it's essentially just helping people get their budget figured out. Essentially, that's all it is. So I put up a 2 or 3 page PDF that was just a step-by-step thing that kind of explained what this is, why you need to do it, and how to do it, right? So the process that I did with this PDF was I started with the title. Then after that, I just did a quick introduction, so hey, this is what it is, and this is why you're here, kind of thing. After that, I had a very, very short positioning statement for myself, and basically just saying like, okay, like, who am I and why should you listen to my advice in this PDF? You know, so just like a 1 to 2 sentence thing that's just like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do to help people. This is why you should listen. From there, you should introduce the problem that people have with this. So since this is a budgeting thing, you know, maybe their problem is that, you know, budgeting or money as a whole leads to confusion, instability, you know, brokenness, like that kind of stuff. And, you know, and show the importance of like how implementing something like this might actually help them as well. Mm-hmm. And that leads to the next point, which is the solution. So you start with the problem, then you give them the solution, and you kind of, with this, you just say, hey, this is what you're going to get if you were to do this. So if you were to do these steps, you'll gain the clarity, you'll gain the confidence, you'll have control, you'll be able to grow, you know, with your own life and with your family's life, and, you know, all of those different areas, right? Mm-hmm. So just to review the first 5 things, 1 is the title, then the introduction, then the who am I, then the problem, and then the solution. And that's what kind of gets you started off. Are you following me so far? I know it's a lot.
Following you so far. I'm taking notes. I do have a quick follow-up question, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of a lot of the coaches that I've worked with, and the mentality that I know a lot of them, they're going to have some of these questions. This question comes from your ability to deliver on the promise. So what I mean by that, and I see you nodding your head, so you probably know what I'm talking about, right? So in the title, you deliver this sexy promise, right? Like, eliminate debt quickly. It's 3 steps. And I'm sure that there are a lot of coaches going, but am I actually able to help them eliminate that debt in 3 steps? Are these 3 steps going to be the things that get them there? Where's that line between over-promising and under-delivering? Could you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that's a very, very understandable concern. And what I have to say to that is that lead magnets, you're supposed to almost overpromise with them, because you're not trying to solve a person's problem with a free lead magnet. Mm-hmm. And I think that most people understand that, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to get them engaged to take that first step. And a lot of people won't take that first step unless they feel like it's something that's actually worth trying, you know?
Right.
And
so, sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Sure. Oh, okay. So at the end of your lead magnet, and I'll get to this, it's supposed to be set up to where you give them some good value, right? Mm-hmm. You give them the nugget that they're kind of looking for that's really going to help push them in the right direction. But at the end of the lead magnet, you can explain to them and say, hey, you know, this is a great place to start, but this is not the end all be all. And actually, this is just one thing that I help people do to get to that point, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where you can kind of invite them in and be like, listen, like, this is a great foundation, but if you really want to do this, now is the time to move forward and hop on a call, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're not fulfilling the promise, because you're kind of just like making it seem, you're kind of inflating it a little bit, you know, to where like, hey, you will get this, but only if you actually go through the whole thing, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to give you the first step. That's essentially what it is.
Gotcha. So would you suggest naming it like first 3 steps, or just 3 steps? Actually, probably just 3 steps, because then you say first 3 steps, like, oh, then I'm going to have all this other stuff. And so you're really just, you are positioning the title in a way where you're not lying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're just being very intentional with the language around it.
Yeah. And with something like this type of lead magnet, you know, it is a 3-step thing. And if a person were to do this one time, they're probably not going to save a lot of money and get themselves out of debt. Mm-hmm. But if a person were to do this consistently over time, they probably will.
Do these 3 steps over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, even without hopping on a call, like if they were to do this, get it set up, and then have the accountability, the self-accountability themselves to then consistently show up for themselves, they probably will get those results at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But the kick is that most people won't have that self-accountability, and that's where the coach comes in.
Yep. Great insight. Glad I asked the question. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Moving forward. So after you do those first 5 steps, I would actually throw in like a testimonial quote from a client of yours, just as like a little insert, to kind of break things up. Like you're very much in a flow, so it's like bam, 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 bam. But then you're just thrown in like a quick testimonial. So for example, mine was like, I've paid off $4,500 of my debt in about two and a half months. Cody has been more than a financial coach, but a life guide, therapist, and friend. Sam C. client. Just a quick little thing, just to be like, oh, okay, so he's also helped people do things like this. Like, that's pretty cool. It gives you some credibility, and it makes people feel like you're actually able to help them. But it's not the main purpose of it. Yeah, but it's not the main purpose of it. It's just a little nugget. That's all it is. So from there, you would do your first tip, so put the title of the first tip. Then explain what it means as to what the title means, like what is it. Then explain why doing this tip is important, Then you're going to explain how to do that first step. And that might be a 3-step process to get the first step done. So, for example, if you're doing like a spending audit, it might be like step 1 to do a spending audit is this, step 2 is this, and step 3 is this. And that's just one step. So there's like 3 steps within the one step as well.
Okay.
Right?
So it's like an
then
ABC.
You can move on to, sorry, go ahead.
It's like an ABC.
Yeah.
Exactly. Under 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sesame Street, y'all.
That's right. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. No, I'm just kidding. So moving on, that's where you go to tip number 2, and you just repeat the same exact process. So you do the title, you tell them what it is, you tell them why it's important, and you tell them how to do it. So with step number 2, you would have that ABC along with step number 2, just like you have with number 1.
Okay.
Right? And then you move on to tip number 3 and just repeat the process. The title, what it is, why it's important, and then ABC to your step number 3. From there, they've got the information, right? You throw in just another second testimonial quote, just a very short one.
Okay.
That then brings them back to where they've gotten what they've wanted now, but they're reminded that, you work with people. It's not just this PDF. You actually help people do this exact thing, and you get them results. So it's a reminder, because, after they've gone through all the information, they've honestly forgotten about the first testimonial. So second testimonial is key. And then from there, you have to put like a small paragraph that basically says like, hey, like this is just one step, but you still need to do this in order to really get the most out of this. So something along the lines of that might sound like this, now you know how to get your budget up and running, and you have truly learned something that shockingly few people know how to properly execute. And as powerful as that is, it really is just one small piece of your financial journey and success. In fact, what you learned today is part of step 2 of my personal 7-step financial coaching program. Right? So that positions you to where you're like, hey, this is great, but that's not all. And in fact, this is only one step of a 7-step thing that
and it's not even the first step, dude. You
correct.
Plopped them right in. So now they got to know, oh, hell, what's step 1?
Like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's where you can put in your call to action. And you can
good.
invite them in, and hopefully have them book a 15-minute call with you, something like that. And then you just end it with like a little short mini bio, something that's like a 2 to 3 sentence thing, to where people, they want to learn a little bit more about you before they actually click on that link that allows them to book a call with you. They're going to be able to just have a little bit more of an insight of who you are as a person and what you do.
Okay.
And that's
Could I
kind of
ask,
the whole. Yeah, go ahead.
what's the difference between that and the first one that you talked about? You didn't call it a bio before, but you did say, tell them a little bit about yourself and why are you worthy of their time, right? So what does the bio at the bottom look like different than the one on the top?
Sure. So the first one is more of like a positioning statement.
Okay.
Whereas the one at the end is more of a bio. So I'll just read you both of them, and this
please.
again comes from my lead magnet. So the first positioning statement is something like this. My name is Cody Sizemore, and I've helped hundreds of people get control of their money and pay off their debt fast without the stress of restricting their money so much that they can't enjoy it.
Okay.
Just a simple positioning statement.
Mm-hmm.
Then the bio might look something like this. Cody Sizemore is a master financial coach who helps driven millennials with their money and their mindsets so that they can dominate their financial goals and finally have the freedom to live the life that they were born to live.
Cool. So one distinction I heard was first person versus third person. I don't know if that
Yes.
was intentional, but I want to point that out. Okay. So yeah, well, I really, really appreciate you going through all of the specific details of this, because I know our listeners are fervently taking notes, as I was, on how to create this. I am curious though, Cody, before we wrap up today, you mentioned that this performed, 2 to 3 times or 3 to 4 times better than your previous lead magnets. If you wouldn't mind, I'm kind of curious, where did that performance difference take place? Was it in, I'll just give you a couple examples to choose from and let you take it away. Was it in like the number of people that replied to your messaging on like social media? Was it the number of people who actually exchanged their email with you in order to receive this? Was it people who have gone through this and now have gotten on your calendar? Or was it people who have gotten on your calendar and now are clients? It can be any one of those. It could be all of those. I'm just kind of curious where you saw some of those differences in the way that it worked, so that our clients, or not our clients, I'm sorry, that our listeners have an idea of what to expect.
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, all of those areas, it just dominated.
Awesome.
Like the engagement, the amount of downloads, people booking calls, and I've even converted a client from it as well, which is pretty cool. I think that it's a cool thing to see it like actually come to life and actually work. Mm-hmm. I would say that there's 2 main things that really helped with it. One is the graphic that I used to promote it.
Okay.
Because it's actually just a link, so I had to create some sort of like artwork to kind of go hand in hand with that, and I can unpack that a little bit. But then something I did differently this time as compared to my others was actually creating like landing pages for this. Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of unpack that very quickly for you. So I'll start with the landing pages thing. So before with my lead magnets, I would create some artwork that, looking back at it, it just wasn't very good. I thought it was good at the time, but it wasn't. But with my previous ones, I just had the link, and it was a link that just went directly to this page that said, put your name and email in here. And it wasn't even like an attractive page. It was just a white page with black text that said, hey, put your name and email. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And then they got emailed once they put that in. Okay. That was it. What I did differently this time was I created a landing page so that when they clicked the link, it was like a landing page that had like the image of the money map on the page. And it had like, a positioning statement that had like, the benefits of this money map. And it had like, all of the things that you're going to gain from this at the bottom and stuff like that. Like, it looked really nice, and it was colorful. It was like orange and it was blue, which are my colors. And it had my face on it and stuff like it was inviting, so then there's a button that people could click that says download now. So they click that, then it goes to the page that has the name and email. But just having that landing page, they're more warmed up. It's not so like, give me your things. It's not so like,
it feels more legit. I would imagine,
Yeah, it definitely feels more legit.
Yeah, because there's so much crap out there, and if you just try to go to somewhere and all it is this page of blank text and just a box that says give me your email, like I don't even know who I'm really giving this to. But because there was some consistency in not only the graphics and messaging, but they're going to see your face, right? Like they're like, yeah, this seems legit. I know that there could be other people out there who are just really great graphic artists and could still scam you, but I think that it provided some validity and it felt real. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and with that too, after they go through that landing page, they click the download now button, they put in their email and their name. That's where I had stopped before, and they would get the email and everything was good, right? This time they put in their stuff, they got the email, but then that page then redirects to a new landing page, which is a landing page that's specifically set up for my consultations and inviting people onto a quick 15-minute call. But it's also tailored to say like, hey, like, thanks for signing up for your money map. Like, check your inbox in like 5 to 10 minutes. Make sure you check your spam or your promotions just in case. Also, here's a link for a free consultation if you want to move forward with that. And my consultation page is typically blue. But because the money map page was orange, I then colored it specifically for the money map to keep it consistent. So again, like, it's not confusing for people. It just feels like it's the natural next step for them, which is why they naturally took that next step, So this particular lead magnet not only gathered their name and email, but it also encouraged them to take the next step and hop on a call with me for free.
Before they even completed the first step.
Correct.
I think that's what I love about it so much, right? Like, because you do invite them for that at the end of your lead magnet. But here you're inviting them to that before they even get that lead magnet into their inbox. And so you're like Johnny on the spot over there. Right?
And I am curious. The email.
And their email, right. No, I was just going to say, I'm curious to know if you called it something specific so that when they showed up on your calendar, you knew that that's where they came from.
I did. Yeah. And something that's worth noting is that this might sound super involved. It might sound like really overwhelming to create all of these things, to create the lead magnet, to create landing page number 1, to create the page to get their info, to create landing page number 2, to create the email, like all of these things. Like, there is a lot to do. And it does take some time, but I will say that it's worth it. It's worth it 100%. And if you get signed up with a good CRM, like for example, I use ActiveCampaign. There's a ton of different CRMs out there, but ActiveCampaign has worked well for me. And their support is like extremely helpful, and they're very quick as well. So if you ever have any questions, you can just do like a live chat with them.
And we can drop that. We have a link for that too in the show notes. We could just drop that in there for them, and they could kind of see what that looks like and how to navigate it. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes. Yeah.
So it's something that you're going to put some time into it, but if you do it effectively and you do it right, it's really going to help you. And it's really going to benefit you in a lot of ways. So that's one thing. But then the last thing I want to talk about is the promotional graphic, right? Otherwise, you'll just have a link, and that's not attractive to people. So the graphic that I used, again, I stuck with the orange theme, and I had my money map branded as blue. So those are my just 2 colors that I personally use. Your colors are probably different, so stick with your colors. You want to stay consistent to your brand. But I had like an orange background, which is thumb stopping. It's inviting. It makes people excited. And I have the blue money map photo that, creates trust and stuff like that. That's why I have those two colors. But I have at the top just the title, the 3-step money map. And then I have the picture of the money map, and it looks really, really valuable, right? So in reality, this is only a 3-page PDF, but there is something called it's a 3D book cover generator, that basically you just get an image that looks like it's a book, and you put in like a PDF image of it, and it creates it into like a 3D image that looks like a book. So the perceived value is like, oh wow, like I'm getting like a book, which then they'll open it and they'll be like, oh, okay, I see. But honestly,
don't they
that's
know
so
that
common
the job of this is to overpromise?
Yes.
Haven't we already established that?
Yes, but honestly, that is the normal nowadays.
I know, I'm teasing.
Yeah, people expect that, but you wanna have that perceived value to be high.
Yeah,
And
that's super cool. Is there you mentioned a generator? Is there a link that we could add in the show notes for our listeners for that as well? So is it just a free service? It's just kind of like
it's totally free.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be great.
Totally free. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes too. But yeah, I just have the book. Underneath the title, I have the little catchphrase to the right of the book that says, "Give yourself a raise in 3 steps." And then I have a picture of me next to the book on the right below that catchphrase as well. And that just gives the human aspect to it.
Yeah.
Like they feel like it's, oh wow, like this is not just some random thing. Like this is a person connected to this. I'm smiling. He looks like a nice guy, that kind of stuff. Like it just, I know. It just, it helps with the whole trust thing, especially when we're talking about money. Like people are very cynical of that. And having the trust is huge. So all of those things boiled down into one product can really, really create massive results. And I'll be honest with you, this lead magnet that I did, I spent the most time on this. I put the most effort into this as compared to my other ones. But like I said, it like quadrupled in results.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I'd like to have another conversation with you on a different day, because I know we're coming close to time here. But just about the photography in general. You mentioned having you there has been really great, and I've loved watching all of your different photography photos and stuff that you've gotten. And that's one of the places that personally I struggle, because I'm like, I need to find someone who can do that. So maybe we'll have to have a conversation about that sometime, a nice short episode about how to seek that out, what kind of questions to ask, what types of photos to have. So we'll just put that on our list for what to do at another time.
Yep.
Awesome.
I think that's like one of the secret weapons we can have.
I agree. Coaches. Yes. So anyway, we'll have to pick your brain about that another time. Anything else that you'd like to share? You've just been a wealth of information and knowledge, and I'm excited to share some of that even further in the show notes when we close this up. Is there anything else though that you'd like to add to it?
The only like kind of closing statement that I want to say is, I know that it's a lot. I know that there's a lot to take in, a lot to process, a lot to think about in creating your own lead magnet. But you just need one that just crushes it. And if you want to make this next one the one that crushes it, you're going to have to put in the work, but it will be worth it. So don't tell yourself, oh yeah, like I might do that, I'll do it tomorrow. Like just get something going today, even if it's brainstorming on the name. Just get something going today, and stick with it. Make it a point to work on it a little bit every day until it's done, and then let it shine for you.
Yeah, and what a great way to move into the new year as well. We're at the beginning of this, and it's just like let's hit it strong. So that's a really great way to do that. Get that lead magnet that you're going to crush it with, in 2022, and just move forward. I think that's amazing.
You could even play off of the new year with this lead magnet and call it something like, the new year, new me, whatever, like I don't know, but like something along those lines, to where like people are like, oh yeah, like that's what I want right now,
Yeah.
So yeah, you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head there, Maria.
Awesome. Well, this is a great place to wrap up. Thank you so much, Cody. I really appreciate all the information that you've given us. And I think that this is actually going to give us something more to play with in our Facebook group, to be honest, because I think if the people who are listening to this as they're joining our Facebook group, by the way, all of you listeners who have joined that group, thank you so much for telling us that you found us here on the podcast. We're excited to have you in the group. I think this would be a great place to play with these and, exchange ideas and throw art out there and be like, hey, what do you guys think of this? Hey, do you guys know a photographer anywhere nearby? Like whatever it is that we're needing, we have that group to help bounce those ideas off of. So I'm just excited that this is one more thing that we can play with in there.
Absolutely. 100%. Alrighty. Well, that's the show. So thanks for listening to me ramble and for Maria hopping in every now and then. I just wouldn't shut up. So
it's our tendency. It's all right. They're used to us by now. They keep showing up. So they're getting value in exchange for their time. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our host by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.